Good morning, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. I just have to get my notepad. Please hold. Good morning. We're doing some coaching today. Hello, 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 hello. Good morning to you and you. Little did I know I'd be a little singer. Just kidding. I knew all along. Good day, good day, good day. It says one person's watching. Oh no. I hope that one person watching is me. Get excited. All right. Oh, what is happening? There's like all sorts of shit on my desk. Good morning, Susie. Hello. I think today's call is going to be a good one for a lot of people. Hopefully it'll be beneficial. Where the fuck's my pen? Oh, there it is. And we're going to be tying in a similar vein to what we talked about last week, about marketing, branding, getting to Tara's why and all that good stuff. So some of the questions that I asked her might be things that you can ask yourself. Good morning, Hillary. I've got my glitter pen. I'm ready to go. I'm a professional. Also, just want to point out my shirt. It's from a beautiful person on Instagram that has a bunch of shirts that are all about accessibility and things like that. And her name is, I think it's Wheelchair Rapunzel is the shop. But this is one of like a few that I have. But they're really cute designs and things like that. So, highly recommend. Ba-doo-ba-doo. We'll wait for a few more people. You can see my bathing suit through it. Isn't it cute? It's like the ocean. Good morning, Kendra. Good morning, Reese. Hello, everybody. Hello, hello. I like that I just showed you my boo-boos. But it's like the ocean. And I like that. Today, Jill and I are going to the beach to do a photo shoot. So this time I dressed appropriately so we can go in the water. Last time we kind of went in the water, but not a super amount, because she's afraid of putting her foot into a dead person's mouth. It's a weird thing. Morning, Jane. Hello. So as per usual, if you guys have things you want to add while I'm coaching Tara, like if you have anything you want to add to the conversation or anything like that, obviously let me know. Do you pay Jill? Yes, I do. So she works with me 2 days a week, whether it be creating content like modeling, or joining me on adventures to do behind the scenes, or when I have events at the studio, when that gets back to normal, she takes care of that. She also runs Everybody's Education Instagram account, so when we don't have shoots going on, she works Sundays and Tuesdays usually for me. So when we're not doing photo shoots or have other things planned, she'll come to the studio and work on that kind of stuff. But usually, I told her that she's kind of like my antidepressant, and that's why I pay to have her there. Because she's like, what's my title? I'm like, you don't have a title. You just like make me sane. Which I think is actually really important for us to have in a business. Like, she's the person that's like, we should go get ice cream. And I'll be like, oh, like, if it was just me by myself, I would just keep working and never take breaks. And I've been significantly happier having somebody else in the office to bounce ideas off of and things like that. So just that, I told her I just pay her to hang around, really. But she has a similar mind to me. She's very strategic, very forward thinking. Loves to brainstorm, but where we disconnect, which is great, is that she sees problems. And I'm all about positivity, so I like to gloss over problems. I'm like, it'll be fine. But Jill will be like, well, no, here's the actual thing. So we leverage our strengths to make us stronger. And in return, obviously, I pay her money, but I also give her therapy. Or therapy. I can't say therapy. But yeah, and I help her kind of through her 20s. If that makes sense. Like, she's much further evolved than a lot of 24-year-olds, for sure. But she still has a lot of body image and things like that she likes to talk about because her family's not, like, super supportive. In fact, for a long time, her mom didn't like me because I was, like, the opposite to everything that they taught her, which is kind of funny. All right. Tara, you here? Yes. Okay, perfect. I'm going to bring you on. I see your... Oh, where'd you go? Get back here. Add. We'll wait for Tara. I know I said to turn your phone sideways, but we're doing this vertically today. Because that's how I roll. Hi, Tara.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Are you excited for today?
I am a little bit nervous, but excited.
That's okay. You don't have to be nervous. It's just chatting more than anything else. We're just gonna be talking. I just gotta
Mhm.
find a pen that works here. Oh, here we go. So if you would be okay to give us some kind of context about like what you were hoping to get out of today's chat, or like kind of what you're looking for in terms of guidance and stuff like that.
So I definitely am one of those people that imposter syndrome is a huge thing that I really struggle with, finding. I know what my why is, kind of, but I don't always know how to put it into words. And I
Okay.
think that kind of has a block that when it comes to marketing and stuff like that, because there are other photographers in my area who I love and I look up to. Um, and I often think, man, my prices are so low, but I can't seem to get the confidence to like get where I want to be.
Gotcha. All right. Awesome. So before we go into moving forward, what are some things that you have tried? Like, obviously, you've recognized that there are some blocks in the way. So, like, what are the things that you've tried that you just kind of like hit a roadblock on?
I don't just finding my own voice. Like I am so guilty of looking at other people's like posts or comments and like, oh, I should write about that. But it's not necessarily coming from me then. I'm getting the idea from someone else instead of like focusing in on my own ideas. And then when my ideas do come, they come hard and fast. And then I have like a lull where I don't have any ideas.
Yeah, I totally get that. I literally just like, I don't know why. I was sad yesterday, and I think that might be why. But I literally was like, reach out and book all the photo shoots to distract yourself from what you're actually feeling, is what
Hmm.
happened. And my calendar's like, what have I done? But now I've committed, so it will be what it will be. But every time I'm like, no, it'll be different this time. And then no, it's like all or nothing kind of thing.
Hmm.
So I totally feel you there. So okay, so you said you kind of know what your why is. So tell me what,
Yes.
like, try in your in the best way you know how to explain it right now, and I'll see if I can help you word it a bit better if you're actually having trouble wording it.
Yes. So, I mean, my why is definitely I want to be body positive. So, for so long, I haven't liked my own body.
Okay.
And I find so much, I don't think joy is the right word, but so much like completion and satisfaction when I get these messages back from my clients. They're like, I've never loved myself until now, or oh, how much editing did you do? And I'm like, I didn't do any. I played with the light and I brought out the features you love and we showcase those. And I always try anytime someone's like, oh, hide my belly, I try to do at least one or two shoot like images where their belly is like the focus and show them it's not what they think it is. But then I feel like such a hypocrite sometimes because then here's me posting pictures of me and my family, and I'm like, oh God, don't use that one. I look like shit. Like it can feel it's hard to be like, hey, love yourself when I get dressed in the morning. I'm like, well, I can't wear this, and like I'm still struggling with it. So preaching it and being like, you should totally do this, and then not always living it is a real struggle.
So, so what I'm hearing you say is that, like, obviously, and this is not uncommon, I don't think, for it's literally almost everyone in this group.
Hmm.
Even myself, when I first began, was very much like, what's happening? Because we're like, we can see it's always easier to help somebody else.
Yeah.
So like it's easier for you to help your clients, and then when it comes to yourself, you're like, or we could just like skate by that, and then just ignore it. But then what it does is it does create this kind of imposter syndrome, or like they're gonna find out that I don't love myself,
Yes.
fear, right?
Yeah.
So my recommendation to you is to own that. Go to the they don't when I think of the big mistake is that we think like body positivity is a destination.
Hmm.
um, And so like when we put ourselves in a position of leadership, which when we are the photographer, we are leading our community or that particular person. We think that we need to have all the answers, and like, why would they come to me if I don't know the answer? Like, we have all these questions around it. But to be honest, like, one of the things that made me as successful as I was is that it's like, I don't know, I'm just figuring out this shit and I would like you to join me on this adventure.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
So like, have you talked about your own body image struggles with your clients, like not personal, not one-on-one, but rather like in your group, or like, is that something you talk about often?
Not often. I did it for the first time yesterday.
Oh, perfect. Oh, you were
So
preparing for today. You knew what I was gonna say.
no, actually, it was Sunday. So my arms is a part of me that I really don't like. And then I posted the picture. And then yesterday, I had to take my daughter to school, went to the vet twice because I took the wrong animal. And then,
Oh, that was you that took
yes,
the wrong
yeah.
animal.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Showed up with the cat and was supposed to bring the dog, like just completely wrong. And then I went to the grocery store, but I wore one of my favorite dresses that I always wear a sweater over because I don't like my arms out. And I got in my group and I pretty much said, you know what, fuck it. You know, if someone doesn't like what my arms look like, don't look. I'm not going to play this game anymore. And I encourage them to pick a body part this week, like as my Monday motivation that you don't like, and wear something that shows it off. What's the worst that's going to happen? And it was okay.
What was the response to you sharing your personal story?
A lot of likes, very few comments, very few. Like, I think I caught people off guard.
which will, there's always that, like, if they're used to, let's say, your group being like just positive and like super great, and like we're just again glossing over the elephant in the room, which is that we all hate ourselves, right? But I think the more you, even like talking about this conversation we're having today, like going after this, going into your group and doing live and say, like, I just did a coaching where I've been afraid to tell you, like, this is something that I struggle with myself. Like, there's so much power in that vulnerability that, again, we're asking people to get vulnerable with us. So it's very important that just as they trust us, that we trust them with our feelings. Does that make sense?
It does.
Is it hard? Yes, but the more you do it, the easier it gets. Just like wearing a dress with no cardigan over top of it. Like the first time I wore a crop top, I was like, oh god, my stomach. Like, I was very aware that my tummy was hanging out. But then the more I did it, then I was just like, oh, this is just what I do. And my thing too is, if there's anything you're ever afraid of sharing, like I always think this for myself, is that if there's something I'm afraid of sharing, that means somebody else needs to hear it. Because number one, shame exists in silence. So there's that. But the other thing is, that is rude of me to think that I am the only person in the world experiencing this. Like, that is a very like narcissistic thing to believe. You know what I mean? Like, I can't possibly, this magical unicorn that has this life experience that nobody else knows about. So I always kind of put it in that context and say, what if I don't have the answer, but I say, here's something I'm struggling with what do you guys do? Like, how do you handle it? I would love your advice on this thing. And that like improves that relationship between you and your client like so much more. So my question though would be, why are you afraid to share that with your group?
I think more from a personal side. Like, I'm less afraid in my group than I am on like my personal social media.
Why is that?
I think a mix of things. I think part of it is, you know, some people I'm friends with on social media or from high school and college, I looked a lot different then. And like that immediate thought of, oh, she became the fat one, was kind of like this thought in my back of my head all the time. And sometimes there's things that I do with my husband. Now, my husband, you know, he's military, so he's fit. I think, man, when we go to events, you know, I'm always the big girl in the room, and it can really start to eat away at that. Like, well, maybe I'm not, do I deserve to be successful because I couldn't get my shit together before, you know, why now? And there's such this stereotypical thing too with military wives in this like, oh, well, because I'm fat, I must depend on him. Not like, not the fact that I'm also running my own business. I handle our kid. I handle the zoo we currently have at our house. Like, that never feels like enough.
I
So,
think there is one of the girls that came to Body Image Boot Camp, Hillary. Her, I can't remember what her husband does, but I think it's kind of military, and she experiences kind of similar experience that way, where you are essentially responsible for taking care of literally everything.
yeah.
Like, yeah, like I think, and I think the important thing here though to understand is that just like you said, it doesn't matter what other people think of my arms. That's like, if that makes them uncomfortable, that can't be my problem.
Mm-hmm.
It is that same kind of attitude we have to have towards those people. Very similar to you is that whenever I think about seeing people, like when I was in Korea, I lost like 100 pounds. So I was very like much smaller than I am now. And there I was I dated a bodybuilder. So like that's who I was. And then he actually just moved to Toronto. And I was like, oh, I should meet up with him and just see how he's doing. And then my first thought is like, oh my God, he's going to be like, what happened to her body?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I was like, that can't be my problem. Like, as much as that is. So I did reach out to him, but he didn't respond. Maybe he just can't go there right now with me. I don't know. But the thing is, like, our bodies aren't secrets.
Right.
You know, like if you're online in any capacity, and the people that are thinking that shit are worried about their own insecurities. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to start questioning the things like, okay, so they say that they say she got fat. So what?
I know. It's one of those things, though. You like in the back of your head, you know it, but to actually take that like step is a very different feeling.
Yes.
Sorry,
It's different.
I'm being
Nope.
attacked.
Oh, that's okay. What do we have? A dog, cat?
My daughter got a kitten, and it's over here attacking the string of this.
So I think it's really important though, like when I can guarantee you are not the only military wife feeling the way that you're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Again, if you can go into it, this isn't about me. And I know there's got to be at least one other military wife out there that will appreciate my candor. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Like when I post things, I don't go into being like, okay, there's going to be like 900 people watching me or however many people follow me. I'm like, if this changes one person's thought, like if this challenges their belief a little bit so that they change the way they think about themselves, then it was worth it. Then it was worth it for me to share my own personal story.
Yeah.
Right. And I think, again, if when we're worried about what other people think of us, that is very selfish, I want to say. And like, not selfish, but we've all been there.
Mm-hmm.
But it very much is like, I would rather stay comfortable than offer the opportunity for somebody to learn from my amazing story. Right? If we turn it about us, then it is about us, and and we never get anywhere. But if we can shift the focus to really only look at those people that matter, and not the ones that are gonna say the bad shit, because if you go into it with the expectation like everyone's gonna love me, you will set yourself up for disappointment.
Yes.
But if you can go into it with the idea that, you know what, people are gonna talk shit about me, but I can't really be bothered about them right now because my journey is not about them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you probably feel very alone, like having all these feelings and thoughts.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things I don't do because it's for a long time I always felt, I don't know, it's easy to feel judged in this lifestyle that you go to these dinners and these events and, you know, everyone is, I don't know, it's just easy to feel like the outsider. So because of that, I've come to the point where I just don't go anymore because I throw myself in my work instead. I can't go, I'm busy. Or if there's this big thing I don't want to attend, I will book a client. oh, sorry, my mistake. Like,
Distraction.
yes, I can just play it off that way. But I am trying to do better and trying to be a little more present in those things.
What if when, like, let's say, again, like, I'm assuming your husband, like, would love for you to attend these things with
Hmm.
him. Like, he is
He
like,
is the most supportive person I've ever met. Like, and almost to the point of being enabling that, we knew each other in college. At the risk of too much information, I dated someone that lived on his floor. They called me their friend. I got angry and I slept with him. It was like getting even. But then we didn't talk for a really long time. So he knew me in college when I was a very different person. And then 4 years later, we reconnected. And by that point, I've had multiple ankle surgeries. I had put on about 100 pounds, but he still saw me for me. And every morning he'd be like, hello, beautiful. And sometimes it can feel like, I don't see what he sees. And it can be like, don't patronize me. And I know that's not what he's doing. Like I truly believe him. So
yeah.
for him, he doesn't see why it's a big deal or, oh, come on, it's fine.
But I don't think you do believe him.
Not always.
That's the thing. And so, like, so I think that's important for you to understand, though, because you're telling him, like, or like you're telling yourself that, oh, I do believe it, but also I don't, because you wouldn't be saying the things that you're saying. But
Right.
I think it's really important to acknowledge just how deep that goes for you.
Hmm.
In that you don't even believe this beautiful man that's like, I always go into maybe that's my naivete, but I always am like, cool, what you said, I will believe that. Like, I just assume that, why would they say anything differently?
Right.
And even if they say something nice to me and then talk shit about me behind my back, I don't care, it's behind my back, I can't hear it. Right? So
Hmm.
I just, like, take the thing and be like, thank you. But the other important thing is, similarly though, is that I don't rely on that. Like, I don't rely on, I think it's really important for us to get away from relying on external validation. And really, I think maybe something that you're struggling with is, like, this idea of body positivity. Like, I always talk about this. Stop trying to get there. Let's
Hmm.
start with acceptance. Right? Like you wearing the dress with your arms out, that is body liberation. You say, you know what, I'm not a fan of my arms, but it's not going to stop me from, like, wearing this dress and, like, rocking it. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? That is where you want to get your mindset first, in more things than one. So going to an event, and I always tell the story about when I had to go to that stupid networking event, which I hate. And I showed up and I was wearing, like, a cotton jumpsuit with no bra, Sorel boots, like winter boots, because my sister's like, it's casual. Everyone, this was my nightmare. And Jill and I were just talking about this the other day when I was talking about all those identities we try to uphold. So number one, I already felt by going to this networking event that I didn't fit in. So, but I was like, I'll do it for my sister. Okay, I'm like, it's for her, it's for her. And then I show up and it literally was my nightmare. I was dressed like schleppy, and then I show up and everyone's in cocktail dresses and fucking suits. Like, literally everything that I thought about networking just, like, amplified. Like, I was like, oh my God, now I literally look like what I'm afraid they think I look like.
Yes.
Even if I was to dress up. But I can tell you, I was probably the most comfortable person in that room. Plus, also, I decided I had a choice. I could have gotten back in the car and said no, right? Like, no, like, after I saw them, I could have just been like, let's go. Like, I can't do this. But I said,
Hmm.
no, you know what? It's not about me. It's about my sister right now. Like, I can't. And then I was like, how can I make this into my conversation piece? So everybody I'd meet, I'd be like, oh, didn't you get the dress code?
Yeah.
And then I would, like, call attention to the thing that way I took the control.
Hmm.
Does that make sense? By drawing attention to the thing, I was like, well, obviously they're going to talk about it because I drew attention to it.
Right.
So kind of having, like, going to these things, and before you go, having a strategy in place. The Do More party at Vegas this year, I told her I don't like parties. Like, I literally hate them. I don't drink. I don't stay up late. Like, I would rather just hang out in my hotel room and, like, wear jammies and not dress up. Like
Mm-hmm.
that, similar to you, probably how you feel going into these events. It's like, I feel like I'm
Yes.
in sausage casing and like, I just feel like I don't belong there. But I also know that there's benefits to be there, which is that I might have a good time actually with the person that I'm with. And so my way of handling it and having less anxiety about it and less body image issues about how I looked or whatever was saying, cool, I'm going to wear something I'm comfortable in, number one, right? Wearing something that I feel confident in, but it's still mine. It's me.
Right.
And then the second thing is saying, I will stay for 3 hours, the end. So I gave myself an out before I even got there. So maybe that's something you could work on with your partner, is to say, yeah, I would love to go to this event because I know it's super important to you, but I need to put a boundary in place that if I'm not feeling okay and if I'm not feeling like comfortable or things like that, that I need to know that we can leave at 11 or 10, whatever, right? And having kind of a game plan in place, you will have more confidence just walking in and saying like, okay, I'm here, that's good. And then if 10 o'clock comes around or whatever time and you're like, you're feeling icky or whatever, you can leave. But also if you're having a good time, you can stay.
Right.
You know, but like that's you taking that control.
Yeah.
Of that situation. So I think that's one way to do it. But think about how you felt when you wore your dress without your sweater on. Like just imagine like how you felt when you were like, I'm doing it.
Yes. I felt like a little kid that like just wrote their name for the first time.
Perfect. That's amazing. So
And
before
I committed I'm going to do it all week. I'm like a whole week of it. That way, hopefully by Friday, it won't be like that
shocking.
anxiety. It will just be, it is like.
That's amazing. And that's the same. So before you like, let's say you agree to an event coming up, you're like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. As you're preparing, like as it's getting closer, every day you remember how you felt when you put on that dress and you just rocked your arms, and how you felt when you did the thing. Right? Like doing that and going back to that feeling of, that's confidence. What you're feeling is confidence. You did the thing even though it scares you.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about the way our brain works is that when you think of a situation where you did something, it could be positive, negative, confidence, whatever, your brain actually creates the same chemistry as if you're doing the same thing again. So you will have confidence before you go. If you kind of just take, like, be intentional about thinking about how you feel right now. Like really appreciate and high five yourself for doing this hard shit this week. So that way it'll enable you to do hard shit down the road.
That makes sense. Oh yeah. And I should say I don't like skip everything. Like when it's a dining out or something, we get to wear ball gowns, I'll go because it's a chance to get dressed up and it's fun. But there's sometimes he's like, hey, you want to meet us all for lunch? It's like, nah. Like it's just like it's little things that I just kind of tend to push myself away rather than, and I know I used to be guilty of this thought of like, oh well, this makes my stomach look smaller, this makes my arms, it's still there, it's not like I'm hiding it, it's not a big secret, like whether
I
it's,
always tell people, I'm like, my body's not a secret. Like when like on the airplane when they're like, oh, I'll get you a seatbelt extender, and you're like, why are you whispering? Like obviously, like look at this.
I bought my own, I take it with me, so
yeah, there you go. But like, so I think it's important. There is a very good distinction there to say, like, you don't have to attend everything. Like, I'm very independent with my husband, but it's not me not attending those things is not out of fear of what other people will think of me. It's out of that, I don't think this is beneficial for me. Like, I'm like, that's kind of a waste of my time, and I really don't care. But if it was that important to him that I meet his work friends or whatever, then I might go. But even still, I'd be like, I don't, like, why? I don't need people to like me, so I don't really care to do that kind of stuff. But if it is like your body image issues that are the things that's like, I don't want to go, because the other thing is if it's around eating food, usually there is like fear about you can't eat the way that you want to eat around people if that's hanging over your head. So you're just not enjoying anything at all. So I think one of the main things, like regardless if it's like doing things with your partner or your business, whatever it is, there's a mindset shift that needs to happen around that. It's not about you, right?
Yeah.
Like when you go to these little things, if he really wants you to go, be like, okay, I'm going, like, don't say that to him because then he'll feel guilty, but just, be like, you know what, this is very important to him that I attend this lunch. You know what, I'm going to go, but I am like, set the standard or the idea that you will go, but you will be yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So if he doesn't like that, then he's got to be okay with that, right?
Right.
Like that's very important. That's how you get that control back. When you go live in your group to share your stories, if people don't like that, well, they'll either stay or they'll leave. Like, that is up to them. You cannot control anybody else except for yourself.
Right.
Right. So I think setting that expectation with yourself, like, I have this story that I really want to share with people about, like, it is very hard to do the job that we do and feel the things we feel about ourselves and feel like we can't share them. Like, even me in our Everybody's group here, every time I have like a feeling of imposter syndrome around, like, well, I don't make as much money as some other photographers, so do I even have a right to be a teacher? The first thing I do is I come talk to y'all about it and be like, here's something I'm stressed about.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it's really important that people understand that nobody's got their shit together. Like, literally nobody's got their shit together. This is why I have a thing on my phone that says that. Like, the background of my phone says nobody has their shit together either. And like, it can seem like everybody does, but nobody does. Everybody's family's a shit show. Everybody's got a zoo. Everybody's got, like, everyone's got socks on the floor. Everybody has that. And if they are saying they don't, they're fucking lying, or they're stressed to the max making sure that they don't. And that is no way to live a life, I don't think.
Right.
But I think that we, as boudoir photographers and community leaders, can step up and say, thank you for being vulnerable with me and getting in front of my camera. Now it's time for me to be vulnerable with you, and I'm going to tell you about my body image issues.
Mm-hmm.
I literally share them with them. And I can promise you, the more you share, like, the most like stuff that I get, the most engagement I get is when I share shit about myself not being perfect.
Yeah.
In fact, the most like photo of myself is me looking like Grumpy Cat. What? Like, it's like a cell phone photo taken, like, backlit. It was terrible. And I'm just like, meh. And like, everyone's like, that's amazing. I'm like, what? Like, nobody cares. I think that's the other thing. Nobody cares. Nobody thinks about us as much as we think they do.
Yeah. Yes.
And if they do, hey, at least they're thinking about you, right?
Yeah.
That's what I always say. Like, when people are like talking about me or like whatever they're saying, I'm like, at least they're thinking about me. I'm not even thinking about them. You know what I mean? Like, thank you.
Yes. We've had that. My husband and I have had that conversation where I'm like, I have family members that joke about how's your porn industry going? And I'm like, you spend more time worrying about me and my career than I do about you. Like, I don't even know where you work. So let's put this into consideration. Thank you for spending so much time on me.
It's like, oh, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, I always think that I'm doing something right when people are pushing back against it. Do you know what I mean? When I have somebody be like, oh, you shouldn't have shared that. Why? Because you wouldn't share it?
Yeah.
Right? Like, I think that's the other thing to think of. Like, this is my life. I can do whatever the fuck I want. Thank you very much. Like, you worry about you and I'll worry about me, and then everybody will be happy. Like, if you really care that much about this, like, or against the thing that I'm talking about, you have a whole platform that you can do and use to talk about this stuff. Like, you don't need to come at me for it, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing I always remind people. But I think it's really important for that. So my question to you will be at this point is, like, what are you afraid of if you talk about whatever you want to talk about?
I don't know. I don't think I really know what I'm afraid of. I think so much of my fear has been, this sense of judgment. But in actuality, I don't know if I really care if people judge me, and I think some of my judgment issues is, if this will stall out my business, and I truly love what I do. And if I say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing or I'm too forward pushing, will that take away something that truly brings me happiness?
It can't. Because right now, you can't be truly happy if you aren't yourself. And the only thing that can happen is that you will become more happy because you'll feel free. You won't feel like a fraud.
Mm-hmm.
You'll be like, not only do I get to do what I want to do by like helping these women that need me, or men, or whoever you shoot, like I get to do what I want to do, but also I get to be myself while doing it. Come on. Like
Yeah.
that sounds like a fucking dream, you know? Like if I could see myself 10 years ago, seeing where I am now, I would be very happy with where I have come, that I can talk. I feel now at this point more confident being able to talk about whatever I want because I am confident in myself. Like I am like, no, I can't be the only one that feels this way. And my thing too is like, if you're ever like, instead of saying it as a fact, always talk about it as a story and with questions. So instead of like, I'm not saying you need to be the like body image guru or like
Yes.
whatever, and just say people don't respond to that shit anyways. What they respond to is your story. You saying, I have to go to this event and I'm fucking scared.
Mm-hmm.
You saying, now I know what it feels like to get my photo taken, what it feels like for y'all to get your photo taken because I fucking did it. And I thought all the most negative, vile things about myself
Mm-hmm.
before I stepped in front of that camera, but then it turned out amazing, right? I think it's so important for us to kind of ask that. But now when you say, I don't know about what you're actually afraid of, the thing is you do know, but you're afraid to go there, which is why you say, I don't know. Like,
Yes.
I don't know what this,
Probably a mix of afraid to go there and not sure how to go there.
okay.
Like not
So
sure how to even get that out of myself. Because I'm
I
definitely one
think,
of those people that bottle everything and push it way, way down. That I recently started seeing a therapist, and she's like, "You have no boundaries. That you let everyone dictate to you, and you just kind of take it all." And so I think a lot of things are just so deep that until I figure out how to,
so I don't think there's, again, you're looking for destinations.
yeah,
Right. And nobody, no, number one, you won't get there. I can promise you. I've been doing a lot of self-work over the last like 10 years and I'm still not there. There never will be, because all of our deep-seated bullshit was formed between the ages of 3 and 14. So like we got some shit to work through, you know, because
mm-hmm,
then on top of that 3 to 14, we now have like 20 years of like bullshit that other people have told us, you know. And so it's like we have to dig through it all to get down to like, but why it is.
mm-hmm.
So when I say what are you afraid of, and you say fear of judgment, which is fine. Like lots of people are afraid of that, right? Fear of judgment, or what will people say. The other thing is, because you brought up boundaries, is why are you afraid to set boundaries?
I am someone that is easily played by guilt.
So if you say no, what are you afraid of?
Disappointing the people I say no to.
And what does that mean if you disappoint them?
That's where the guilt I think comes in. I can tell. So the way I was raised, and a lot of things I was told growing up was always, well, you do it because you have to, or you do it because I told you to. And I always just did. And I would have in my mind this like, well, if I say no and I upset them, well, what if that's the last time I talk to them? Like my brain goes to 1,000. Like that's just how I work. And I do the same thing with my husband. So I know I'm guilty of it. Because every time he gets on a plane for a flight, I'm like, well, what if this is the time? And that is not a healthy way to live. And I get that, and I'm working on that. But it's that Catholic guilt in me that has just was drilled into me as a child that I've pulled away from as an adult, but yet all of that damage is still there.
So if let's say you post something and it does disappoint somebody, what happens?
I just am told often of the disappointment.
By who?
I would say, like, normally if I post something that disappoints someone, it would be my family. So they would be the ones to point out, you should not have done that. Why did you do that? Why did you say it that way?
So
So,
one of my favorite phrases that you may want to adopt, because I'm a middle child. I have a very hard time saying no to people.
mhm.
Is that it's unfortunate you feel that way, because you are not in control of how they feel. If they get offended, if they're disappointed, that's on them. You don't own that. You can't.
Right.
No matter, like, you need to have that as your mantra. I'm not responsible for their feelings. I'm not like, obviously there's like at some point somebody's like, you did actually like be like, wow, like the intent was this, it wasn't about you, right? It always comes back
Right.
to that. Like, it's unfortunate you feel that way, but this is what I had to do for me. The end. Like, and I like that phrase, it's unfortunate you feel that way, because you're not sorry for what you wouldn't be sorry for what you need to do for yourself,
Mhm.
right? And I think it's really important. So I want you to adopt that phrase the next time, because it sounds like your family's relatively vocal about this shit.
Yes.
And then literally say, it's unfortunate you feel that way. If you don't like what I'm posting, you can feel free to unfollow me.
Mhm.
Like, literally, that is a boundary. You are saying, hey, listen, you don't have to like it, but I'm still going to post it. Like the argument I had with my brother where, like, I posted something a while ago, and then he, like, raked me through the coals about how it was bad and stuff. I'm like, you know what? It's unfortunate you don't like it, but if you don't like what I'm posting, you don't have to look.
Mhm.
Like, you don't have to follow me. I'm not making you do that.
Yeah.
Right? And so, like, we have to realize, what are we capable of controlling and what don't we control, and them you do not. And I want you, tell me if this resonates with you. If you disappoint them, you're afraid they may not love you.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. Yes, I think that, and they won't be there for me when I need them.
Well, here's the thing, they're not there for you right now when you do need them,
Yeah.
because they're saying this shit. You're saying, I need you, like, I want your support when you're, like, sharing stuff. Maybe, I don't know how you're doing that, but, like, they're not there for you right now. You can want what you want, but it is what it is.
Right.
The other thing is, have you ever asked for what you need from them?
No, and that's something that my therapist and I talk about a lot. And I do the same thing to my husband. I want them to know what I need and to give it to me, because I care enough to know what they need or what my husband would need on a regular basis. So I always try to anticipate and be there and be like, oh, you know what? I know you have this week and you're going to be really busy. So I made all your lunches. Like, I try to, and then when it's not returned, I get really irritated, because I'm like, what the hell? I put in the time. Why aren't you? And this is something that we actually just talked about, that there's no shame in me telling him what I want and what I need.
Exactly. Like,
And
I'm a firm believer in that. Like, when people come to me and they're like, I'm fine, again, I believe them. Like,
mm-hmm,
it is that if I don't know what your problem is, I can't help you. If I like, and I will just keep moving forward, because that's how I'm wired. The other thing is, we need to understand, this is why I love Clifton Strength so much, and I talk about it all the time, is because you need to understand the way you see the world is not the way everybody else sees the world. So
yeah,
your strength is noticing the, like, special things in people, and like helping them and like supporting them. That is your strength, your superpower. Your husband's superpower might be something else. I don't know what it is,
yes,
because I don't know him, but he might show up in a different way. And that's where the love languages is really good to learn about as well, like the 5 love languages, if y'all haven't done that.
mm-hmm,
Like, doing that quiz is really good to say, oh, this makes sense. Like, for the longest time, my husband and I would argue because he's a robot and I'm creative, and I'd be like, how does my website make you feel? And then he'd be like, what? Like, he literally cannot process what I'm asking. His
that's
brain just, like,
that's us. I'm very creative. My husband is a in the box. If you give him directions, he will read every word and follow it to a T. And I'm like, no,
yeah,
let's do it this way.
let's just, like, start and see where we end up, right?
Yes, that we
Yeah,
are
that's me. So
polar
that's where
opposites.
that's where frustration happens, until you realize that those are strengths.
Mm-hmm.
For for you,
finding somebody to bounce creative ideas off that isn't your husband is very important. For him, finding, like, for you to go to him for things where you know he will, like, be able to follow the directions, build you an IKEA cabinet and make sure the shelves fit properly. Like, I always am like, oh, fuck, it's upside down. Like, because I didn't read the instructions and thought I knew better, right? But my husband's like, no, I read the instructions first, then I'll put the thing together. So if I want it done right, I go to him and say, you do it, because that's where you're really good.
Right.
And then when he needs help with creative stuff, he'll come to me, but he will not come to me for diligence, like specific things. So I think it's really, we've been fed this false idea that, like, our partner has to be our everything. And as soon as we realize that, wait, I can't be everything to everyone, right? Like, it was something that he asked you and you're like, I don't fucking know. Like,
yeah. He'll be like, hey, do you know where this paper is? No. I can give you a room, but beyond that, I know. He opens up our thing of, like, all of our bills and stuff, and it's all just shoved. I mean, it's in a box, so I keep it at least in one place, but I can't just pull it out. Like, no.
And I think that, so that's the thing, is, like, I always think of how I feel, like, if my husband was to ask me to do a math, like, calculation, I'd be like, what? Like, give me, like, 5 hours to, like, check it, double check it, because I'm not, that's not my strength, right? So I always think how I am with that kind of stuff, analytical stuff, he is with feeling stuff and creative stuff. So now I know, if I go to him for that stuff, I have to be willing to understand that he actually doesn't know.
Yeah.
Right? And I think once we can understand that, not just about our partners, but also our family members, understanding that they see the world in a very different way. When your parent, when your family says, what about your porn, blah, 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 maybe they don't actually know why you do what you do, and all they see are photos.
Right.
You know, I'm not giving them excuses.
Oh, yeah. No, that's definitely it, because they see my Instagram. They're not in my private group, and most of what I say and do is in my private group. Because to me, there's that level of safety. There's only people in there that want to be there.
Which is great. That is super important. But my recommendation is, the next time a person says something, like a family member, if it's important to you that you have their support, that's where you could take it a step further and say, I know what you're seeing is these images on my Instagram account, but here's what you're not seeing. And then share the stories that you've been allowed to share from clients. Like a woman, you know, maybe you've had a woman that finally loves her body for the first time in forever. Maybe you have somebody that just, like, you know, she was sexually abused and she's giving you permission to share this. And after doing a session with you, she finally reclaimed her power. Like, if you want their approval, or, like, want them to understand more, you need to educate them more on what you do. But ultimately, if after you tell them that and they still don't offer you support, then that's where the boundary has to come and be like, well, cool, you don't gotta follow me, bye.
Yeah.
Right? And understand that just because you say, this is my favorite quote ever, because I'm a people pleaser that never says no, is that just because you said no and they get angry doesn't mean you should have said yes. Right?
Yes.
Like, I think that's really important for people like us to know. And while that also applies to boundaries, just because you put a boundary in place and they get angry doesn't mean that boundary should not have been placed.
Right.
So I think that's going to be a really big thing for you. And maybe start with your group, because that seems like a safe place for you. Start by setting boundaries in there. And what I mean by boundaries is sharing a little bit, and then sharing a little bit more, and then, like, seeing how the reaction is, to, like, tippy-toe your way into it. But I can promise you, the more you start to share, it's going to be so liberating for you. You're going to feel super supported by your group, which is amazing. Especially because it sounds like you've curated it to be people that want to be there and understand your mission.
Right.
So they're not going to be like, look at this bitch. Like, no, they're going to be like, oh my God, like, let me give you a virtual hug, or like, they're going to resonate with you more. So I would say, and start with boundaries with your partner. It sounds like he would love them, actually.
Yes,
he would
I
love
think
for you to set some guidelines.
Yes.
So, like, based on what you're telling me about who he is, I can promise you, the more like upfront you are about your needs, he'll be like, "Oh, thank God!" Like, he won't have to like worry that because he sounds robotic like my husband.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, he just takes everything I say at face value. Like, he's like, "Why would you say anything different? Like, why would you say that if what you mean is this? That doesn't, it does not compute." Right?
Yes. Yeah. And like, if I say I'm fine and I'm not fine, but that's just me like trying to, I'm fine. He'll be like, okay, and walk away. And I'm like, what the hell? Like,
so when I say, when I need, because you probably are similar to me, when you are upset about something, you might just need time to process that.
yes. Yeah.
Like, do I have a right to be mad? That's what I say. I say, like, so now I call it, listen, I just need Terry time. That's what I call it. I'm like, I just need to go think about this, but we'll come back and talk about it later. So again, I'm asking for what I need, but I'm saying, but it's not about him. Or, like, me saying I'm fine is like just lying to him, essentially, and that's not healthy communication.
Right.
But if I say, listen, I just need to clear my head, go for a walk, clear my head, think about this, and then I'll come back. But then one day we were like having an argument, and then my husband like walked away. I'm like, where are you going? And he's like, you need your Terry time. I'm like, oh no, you don't tell me when I need my Terry time. I decide. Right. So now he knows.
Yes.
But I think it's very, like, I think your communicate that will also give you confidence once you realize that just because you're putting boundaries in place with him doesn't mean he's going to go away.
Right.
I think that's a fear that it sounds like you might have, is that I'm afraid my business will go away. I'm afraid, like, abandonment, essentially. Yes. I'm afraid my clients will go away. I'm afraid my family will go away. I'm afraid my partner will go away. So there's this part that you have to understand, that if it's easier for your brain, because it sounds like you have like a strength called restorative, which is just seeing problems everywhere, which is that, but it can create immense anxiety, and rabbit trails, like you start here and all of a sudden you're over here with the worst case scenario. You know what I mean? So it's really important for people that have that kind of mindset to have contingency plans. Okay, if I put this boundary in place and the worst case scenario that happens is this, what will I do? Right. And come up with a plan. So that way you realize, okay, maybe it's not as bad as I think it is. And like, I will still make it through because look at all the shit that I've gone through so far. Right.
I think that's a lot where my imposter syndrome comes from too, because I have in my mind, you know, sometimes, and a lot of it probably comes too from the fact that, you know, people don't quite understand what I do within my family, because my mom will be like, you charge what? And I'm like, trust me, that is peanuts compared to what I should be charging. Like, I should be, or at least I believe I should be at a different level than I am, but I'm having a hard time feeling like I'm good enough to get there. And I think some of it is the, you know, that fear of, well, if I do this, what if it goes away? You know, that it's this constant, like, what if I'm not good enough to do what I think I can do? What if I'm only good enough in my own eyes? And I think it's all kind of linked to that same thing of the fear of it going away.
And that's a very valid fear. And the one thing that I always tell people to remember, that if you raise your prices, if that's something that's important to you, but also recognize why you think you need to raise your prices. Like, if you've done your cost of doing business and you realize that, you know, the amount that you're shooting is the right amount for you. How many clients do you see a month?
It varies. I would say maybe 6 to 8, sometimes more, sometimes less.
So we'll say an average of 6, or we'll say an average of 7 per month, just for fun. So do you like shooting 7 per month?
I wouldn't mind I wouldn't mind shooting more. So much of my, I can't be someone that puts I need this many average per month, because if my husband deploys, I'm going to shoot less because I have extra responsibility. When my daughter's in school, I shoot more because I have daytimes that are free. I don't really have like a I don't want to give myself goals that are unrealistic for our lifestyle.
Oh, and that's fair. So similar to me, because I travel quite a bit. So what I do is do like a yearly average.
Mm-hmm.
So I say throughout the year, I would love to be able to photograph 150 people. Right?
Right.
And then where that falls, that falls. It might be 1 month where I work myself to death.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say it's important for you, though, to understand what is the maximum that you can shoot per month before you stress yourself out.
Right. Yes.
Because the thing is, before you can, like, I'm not sure what you're charging now, but I think, because I fell into the trap of seeing what everyone else was charging, and I was like, oh my God, I need to charge more based on my work. Like, I just need to.
Mm-hmm.
But that didn't actually drive my mission.
Right.
Like, it got me further away from what I was doing. My whole goal was to empower as many people as possible. If I'm making myself unavailable to a large percentage of the population, I'm not going to fulfill that task. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So it made sense for me to charge less to see more people because that's where I was in my business. Now I'm at a place where I want to educate more, so I don't have time to shoot as much. So now I need to charge more per shoot because my time is more valuable for those shoots. So that makes sense to raise my prices. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
It does. And I think it means a lot to me knowing, I know what military families are making. And I know how much you make when only one person is working, because for a long time that was us. Sorry, this kitten keeps biting my arm. So
she's kissing your arm.
No,
you should let her out.
No, she's attacking me. I know, and I want everyone to experience it. I want to have options that are affordable, and I'm happy with that. But I do know my cost of business for some of my packages are not worth my energy. That I need to find a way to find that balance where I love what I do, but I'm also bringing in enough to justify what I'm doing.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's where I struggle.
So that's where I would say do the yearly, like figure out in a year what is feasible for you to shoot bait. Because how long have you been doing boudoir for?
Only about a year and a half.
Okay, so a year and a half, though, that's enough time to kind of gather some trends, like what are your busy seasons, not busy. You said when your daughter goes to school, then it's busier if you get deployed, or less busy when you get deployed or whatever. So understanding kind of like what is our lifestyle like on average for the most part, you can then say, okay, on average in a year, I would feel comfortable this year, or we'll say next year now, photographing 125 clients. Set your goal there in the whole year. So again, but you can it's still important to do that cost of doing business based on that, because you have to figure out what is the lowest amount per shoot that I need to charge. So not necessarily on a monthly basis, but rather on a yearly basis. Does that make sense?
Yes, I think that would definitely help me a lot to go instead of this like laissez-faire of, well, I don't have an average, so I'm just not going to figure it out. Yeah. That if I give myself a year goal.
As soon as I figured it out, I was like, oh, tips. Like, why have I been doing this whole time? I'm like, how am I still in business? So are you in the Boudoir Alliance group?
I am.
Okay, Andrea Mendoza just shared like the spreadsheet to do the cost of doing business. It's really easy. So go find the video and the link to the spreadsheet, and then copy it and then fill it in for your annual amount.
Yeah.
Is that kitten like?
Yes, this.
Oh, stop it!
It keeps crawling between the blanket and the chair and biting me through the blanket.
The zoo. But so I would say do that first so you can figure out what is the least amount that you need to charge per session to have one person in your studio or your space. Because once you have that, so what I do is I say, okay, if everybody booked my lowest collection, I will make the amount that I want to make a year. If anybody books above that, then great. That's like bonus material, but I don't feel the pressure to have to upsell or the pressure to like, because I understand, again, my strengths are not in the upselling and that. I'm like, is this what you want? Cool, let me make that happen. Again, I take it at face value. I want to help people get what they want, basically. And I understand that I am, for my area, probably one of the pricier photographers for what I do. So understanding that, I need to be like making my bare minimum per client. And then if people book above that, then I'm fine. Does that make sense? But
Yeah.
that has helped me a lot to feel more confident in my pricing. Once I see it, like, I can't possibly do this for less. Like, there's no possible way that I could do this for less than this. And that's the unfortunate reality. This is why I offer prepayment plans, or,
Right.
you know, however you want to do your things. But it allows me to have the concrete evidence. I think this is where it's important to us to have the logical data to offset the emotional part of ourselves that wants to be like, you're just not good enough, and be like, yeah, but I got to be to make my money. So like, this is telling me that I'm good enough. Like, this is the bare minimum that I need to charge. You need like the logical data to offset that mindset. And once you realize that, yeah, my time is worth that, I think it's super beneficial. I think the other thing to understand is like, money is infinite and time is finite. Right? You have, it's not like you just have the one kid.
Yes.
Yeah, so you have like a kid, like you want to spend time with your child, I assume, you know, and your husband
Most of the time.
and to be honest, even if you just want to sit around eating Cheetos on your couch while the cat bites you, like for the rest of your life, that is your prerogative as a human being. And if you want to get paid X amount to be able to do that, that is your right to do that. So I think it's really important for us to kind of just like reshape that idea of like, I'm not worth this amount. But when our business is so closely tied to us personally, it's hard when people are like, especially your family, what? You're so expensive. Be like, no, my services might be spendy for you,
Right.
but I myself am I'm priceless. Right? Like,
Yeah.
that's just what I do. I don't know. I just think like I had to come to like me personally, I had to come to I have a lot of money blocks and things like stuff around money, because I don't think, my thing was, if I raise my prices now, even now, like based on what I know that I need to do, if I raise my prices, people might go away. They will, because that's the point, is you raise your prices so you don't have to work as much.
Right.
That's the point. But in my mind, it's like, but you're not working as much doing the thing you've always done, so something's wrong. It's like, look at your bank account. It still is the same amount as it was when you were working twice as hard.
Right.
And like, that's where the logic has to be there to balance out the brain that's going to tell you, that's rooted in this like, oh, it means people don't like me anymore. No, it means that you just like outprice yourself from those people, which if that's what you want to do, cool. But understand you don't have to work as hard now. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So it's kind of like but you have to like, I at least have to constantly remind myself that it's like, just because you're not working physically as much, that means you'll have less excuses to go to those events. Right? Just because I'm not working physically as much does not mean I'm making less money.
Right.
Like I know in your questionnaire you filled out, you said like being in the groups is kind of like muddling your brain a little bit. Yeah, get out of the groups that make you feel muddly. You don't owe your happiness to anyone.
I think that's a big struggle within the industry right now too. You have people that are saying, "Oh, I just sold my, this package, and this is going to sound absolutely terrible, but I look at some of their images and I'm like, what the hell? Mine's better than that. Like this shoot I did last week, I think for my personal is a better image.
Product.
Yeah,
So
and then it's like, well, am I doing something wrong? I can't base it off of what they do. I need to do my own thing. Yeah,
comparison in the industry is terrible. Number one, like it just, you don't know what their cost of doing business is. You don't know how much they need to hustle. The other thing is in my experience, there are people in the industry that are business people. Like they maybe, like, not saying that they're not empowering people, but to them it is a business. Like they are running it full force like a business and pulling in money like nobody's business. And then there are people like me, but that do like I don't charge near what maybe I should be charging based on the quality of my work, but I don't actually care like what other people are like. I want to run my business my way, And my way is to say, this is the least amount that I need to make what I want to make as a salary every year. And to make sure all my stuff is covered, that's what I need to charge. Cool. That's it. That's all that matters to me. And it doesn't matter quality wise on photos, because I can tell you 10 years ago, my photos were not super great, right? But I was still at that point when I was charging $700 for everything, including product. In my mind, I was like, I literally thought that that was too expensive. Like $700 for everything that I was doing was too expensive for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I did my cost of doing business 3 years later, I was like, what? I was like, oh my God, like what? How have I been able to live?
Yes.
So I think it's really important to get that logical piece in place, so you can just look at it and say, okay, this is factually, I need to make at least this amount per client.
Mm-hmm.
And once you know that, it will give you confidence. If you need to raise your prices, you might find out that maybe you're charging the right amount. You never know. And
Right.
you don't have to change anything, based on what you want to make. I think the other thing that I used to struggle with in terms of money, and it's not to say that it's not the right way to do it, it's just for me, is like every year I'm like, oh, I have to raise my prices this year. But there was no reason for it aside from everybody else was doing it. And then I was like, but why? Like if I worked for a company, you'd get like a 25-cent raise, not like $1,000, $1,000 raise.
Right.
So for me, like, I just started to think a lot more about what I wanted to achieve, who I wanted to achieve it for, and it's going to change. I need you to understand that as well. Like I said, when I was doing more high volume, that was great. I was in like the work zone of my life to practice, to get all these things in place. But now I'm in a place where I like to do coachings or teaching or things like that. So I have less time to dedicate to photo shoots, but I still want to make my services available, but I still need to charge a little more because I'm shooting less. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that would be my recommendation around the pricing thing, is once you have the data to support it, then you can be like, oh, factually, I need to up my prices. Like it makes it easier to like do the work.
Right.
And then once you're charging that and you have people booking it, like no problem, you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, so I think anytime you get like see something in a group, or if you're like, there are a lot of groups that I get added to. Like today I just like unfollowed like 4 groups that I've been added to in the last month. I'm like, this is not beneficial for me. Like people are just bitching and complaining. Like this is not helping me to where I want to be. So get out. There was a money group that I was in like around, and I was like, I thought it would be inspirational and like help me. It just made me feel like shit. So I left. Like and it's nothing against them. It was all about me. Like, I'm like, that is not supportive of who I want to be. So that doesn't fit me anymore. Next. And then, you know what I mean? So I just kind of like find where I curated my stuff to be where I needed to be to get me to where I know I want to go. Does that make sense?
That does. That makes a lot of sense. You don't need to be in every group.
Yeah.
Because it's just going to add more confusion.
Yeah. So my recommendation on the money front, okay, so here's your homework, because we're like past the hour, but that's okay. I'm okay if you're okay. But like, so your homework will be to do that cost of doing business, but based on a yearly amount of clients. So if you can figure that out. So that would be the first thing. The second thing is, I want you to start setting more boundaries with people, or not setting boundaries, but just asking for or saying what you mean and asking for what you want in smaller amounts. Does that make sense? Like, just start by asking for what you want a little bit. And start with people you trust, your husband, even your daughter, or anybody like that in your group, and so on. As well, share about your experience going this whole week, how you feel at the end of the week compared to how you felt at the beginning. And then share again at the end to talk to people in your group about the experience of liberating your arms from their jail cell.
Yes.
And how it feels so freeing to just let them fly, I think that will be super beneficial for you. But I think the other thing is, when it comes to your boundaries, I was like reading 5 things here. When your family is to not only set boundaries, but use that phrase that I mentioned. It's unfortunate you feel that way, maybe here's a story that might help you see it differently, but if they choose not to see it differently, that's not on you. Guilt is okay, but shame is not.
Yeah.
Okay, but right now it sounds like you feel shame about those things in comparison to your family. Like when you're with your family, there's a bit of shame around that and how that makes you feel. So you just like don't talk about it at all. You're like, no, that's okay. We don't need to talk about that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So it's like, so guilt is fine to deal with because you're like, no, I don't need to feel guilty about that. But shame is like an internal, deep-seated like feeling that creates imposter syndrome. So be proud of what you do. Be proud of who you are. And like, you don't have to be like, I'm amazing like I do. But you can just be like, no, what I do is right for me. This is my calling right now. This is changing lives. If you don't want to see that, that's okay. That's on you, but you don't have to follow me, but I'm not going to stop.
Right.
Right. And every little time you say that, it's going to build up to more conviction for why you do what you do, which then will give you more confidence to charge what you want to charge eventually. Does that make sense? It's not going to happen like tomorrow. You're going to be like, no. I'm a new woman. Like, no, it's going to take time and practice and looking logically compared to what's going on in your mind to balance out. But I think after that, you'll be zipping around. You'll be doing great.
Sounds good.
All right. Anything else I can help you with today?
I don't think so.
All right. Thank you for doing this. I always
think
it's
you.
super great for people to, you're not the only one experiencing this. There's a lot of people that are commenting, which is great. And I don't take it lightly that people offer themselves up to do this live. So I really, really appreciate you telling me like everything about, your life history and stuff like that. That helps. So.
Yes. Well, thank you very much. I will get to my homework.
Yes, ma'am. All right. I will talk to you later. Bye.
All right.
Bye. All right, friends. Well, that was fun. Oh, good. See, lots of people. That helped. Does anybody have any questions about any of this before I head off today? Jill and I are going on our adventure. Let's see. I hear all the time, but my mission is to give everyone affordable sessions, not because I value myself less. Yeah, well, that's okay. Yeah, you don't have to be in it to make a huge profit. You just do whatever you want. You just do what you need to do. If you understand why you're doing what you're doing, it makes it that much easier to do it. But that's where if you can recognize like, oh, I'm not charging a lot because I'm afraid to charge more because people will leave or my business will crumble, that's a different issue. Then, nope, I've considered raising my prices, but it's not in line with who I want to be. Then you just do what you got to do. But it does take getting quiet with yourself and really listening to what is right for you. I think, when I started Boudoir, there was no Facebook groups really, like photography groups, until like a year or two in. So I kind of had time to figure my shit out on my own. But now there's like groups for everything, which I'm glad you're here. But also, if this group is not beneficial or makes you feel bad about the way you do things, then you leave. Like, I do not want to be complicit in making people feel bad. You should never feel bad about leaving an environment that makes you just feel like shit. You know what I mean? You don't owe your happiness to anyone. And that being said, it may just not be the right time for you to be in certain groups. I think that's the other thing you need to understand. Like right now, money matters is not like that kind of stuff does not float my boat. If anything, it makes me feel sad. Maybe in 5 years from now, that will be exactly the stuff that I need to learn about. So I think it's really important. I know I would have loved to have more. I'd love to have more groups. I would not have loved to have more groups. I think maybe there needs to be, well, and I guess I kind of treat this group that way as like with this group, I assume everybody's kind of at the starting point. And like, yeah. And I think maybe that's what I was trying to do with this group all along is like, if you're starting your business, I want this to be a safe place for you to start. Because everybody does things on their own time. But when we see things online, we think we have to be there faster or doing it differently and all this stuff. So I think it's really important. Oh, I have a bite behind my ear and it really hurts. Anywho, yeah, so I hope that was beneficial to some people and maybe gave you a different. Okay, yeah, groups making fun of newbies, not okay. I do, yeah, that's the thing, is I wish there was a group for beginners. Basically, here's what I think should exist, because here's what I noticed as well, is that, oh, Michelle says this isn't my main gig. Oh, fuck yeah, no, yeah, do what you need to do and do the things that bring you happy. If you, my thing, I always said this, if I didn't need to make money doing photography anymore, I probably wouldn't. I probably wouldn't charge if I didn't have to make money at it. But in order to live an entrepreneurial lifestyle, or like run, live my life the way that I want to and travel and do all these things, I do need to make money somewhere. Photography right now is the funnest way for me to do that, in addition to teaching or things like that. But that could change at any point. And actually the other day I had to deal with like a client that was exhausting. And I was like, man, should I just get a 9 to 5? Like, being an entrepreneur is literally that, where you're like, this is amazing. And then the next day you're like, I just want to quit and work for someone else. But I know that I could never probably work for somebody else unless, well, I don't know. I don't know. It'd be hard. I don't know what the unless would be. Thank you, Buster. Oh, you are very welcome. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. That's great. I think, and that's why these coaching sessions are super important. I think if one person's experiencing it, everyone either has experienced it, will experience it, or is currently experiencing it. So I think, yeah, the people that offer themselves up for this, if you are somebody that is interested in, doing a live coaching, if you head to my website under hire me, there's coaching section, click the button, it'll take you down, and there is a section where you can apply for a free live coaching. Just know that it will be in the group. It is live, which means people will see it. It will also end up on my YouTube channel, so there's that. So just keep that in mind, because you will be maybe uncomfortable, and I will call you out on shit sometimes, and I will give you homework, and I will follow up on said homework. But I think it's really beneficial for everyone, and I love doing this stuff. So thank you guys for entertaining and watching. That's helpful for me. But yeah, if anybody has any questions about this, feel free to comment. If you're going to watch this later, do you use the hashtag replay so it keeps the engagement up on the live? If you want to catch other live coachings, if you're on a computer, videos button over to the left, photos or videos button up top. On the phone, or you can head to my YouTube channel, which is just Terry Hoffer Photography, I think. I don't actually know. Let me go check. I don't know. I just don't know. Let's say your channel. That did not help me at all. Customized channel. Let's see. Does that tell me? Here, if I click on this, nope, that just says that. How many identities do you carry? That was a good one. Yeah, great, super. I think it's just Terry Hoffer Photography. Oh, Terry Hofford. Actually, it just says Terry Hofford, not Terry Hoffer Photography. And look at that old picture. We need to update this shit. I'm going to update this today. Cool. All right. I may come back and do a live while Jill and I are doing our shoot, if I remember. If not, you'll be able to catch the replay of the Universe Decides video on my TikTok or on my Instagram stories later today. And then, of course, I'll share the photos in here as well. Hopefully I can convince Jill to go into the water and let her know that no, she's not going to stick her foot into a dead person's mouth. This is her fear, and I will help her get through it. But we're going to create some amazing images. I'm very excited. All right, this time my batteries are charged. Yes, win for Terry. All right, I will talk to you guys later. Thank you so much for listening, and stay tuned for next week. Oh, actually, let me go through that quickly. So next week we have Miss Angela Michelle. We're doing brainstorming, branding, marketing, and talking again about imposter syndrome, but with her specifically. And Angela's got one hell of a story, so y'all are gonna want to listen to this one. I swear to God. So it's gonna be good. All right. Talk to you later. Bye. Love you.